Top story this quarter of a century so far. America is bracing itself for the onset of Donald Trump Mark II. I never thought I'd be quite as disappointed, Josh, by hearing the word again so often. But Trump being inaugurated as president, disappointing enough the first time round, but almost infinitely more disappointing when you tag the word again on the end. We are just 1 week away now from Trump being re-inaugurated as president of what passes for the United States of America these days. How are you bracing yourself for this time next week? Basically, it will be happening.
It's been a tough time over here because Trump isn't the president currently, but he's causing all these international incidents already, such as the power of Trump that he's fucking up a job either a week and a half before he starts doing it, or alternatively 3 years and 50 and a half weeks after he's stopped doing it. It's just chaos already. I forgot how bad it would be before he started. Like last week, he said he wanted to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, which is completely in keeping with his longtime strategy of slapping a new name on something that already exists that makes him sound responsible for it. He also suggested that the U.S. should use military force to take control of the Panama Canal, which seems inadvisable because the canal is, and a lot of people don't know this, in fucking Panama. It's their shit. It's so bad. I don't want. I could go on forever, but I want to cede the floor because he was sentenced to for his crimes for all the felonies he was convicted of last week, and he was sentenced to unconditional discharge, which doesn't sound like much, but you should know that if you're experiencing unconditional discharge for more than 4 consecutive hours, you should call your dad. Let's bring him back a joke from the early aughts for this.
Family show. But I mean, the good news is he's about to embark on a criminal rehabilitation program through which, in an effort to get his life back on track and out of the world of crime, he's been given a 4-year work placement in the White House as president. Progress in the American justice system to see that there is hope that you can rehabilitate offenders. So I think that's a good big step.
I honestly think, given America's use of basically slave labor of incarcerated people, they should make Trump go fight the wildfires in California. I feel like it wouldn't justify the program, but it would put a slap a new coat of paint on it.
Yes, America's favourite sex offender and fraudster has been warming up ahead of getting his clammy paws back on the nuclear football. That is not a reassuring phrase. And having 4 more years to cantankerise his country to smithereens by launching basically verbal wars with numerous non-enemies of America. Searching for logic in the 21st century is a fool's errand, frankly. He'd be taking these scattergun verbal potshots at various places in the region he thinks of as rest of the worldistan. Besides the ones you mentioned, he talked about dissolving the border with Canada. Now, Nish, I know you have your partner is family from Canada. Are they excited by this prospect?
Well, my partner's actually half her family's from Canada and the other half's from America. Or to update this for 2 months' time, my partner's family is from America. I think her newly American family welcome the arrival of Donald Trump as the new president of Canada. We're about a week away from what I can only describe as the political equivalent of Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel, in that it is a second installment of a franchise where no one wanted the first one to happen. So how we've ended up in a situation of Donald Trump the Squeakquel is simply beyond comprehension. Last Tuesday, he gave a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, a building whose interior decor can only be described as Saddam chic. And he was asked to give assurances that he wouldn't use military force or economic sanctions. He said, "I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this, we need them for economic security." The them in question, he was referring to both the Panama Canal and also Greenland, the country. I sometimes there are moments in your life where you just can't believe what you're watching. and you're starting to believe that a nightmare you had 6 months ago has been made real as part of Make a Dream Come True Day. But so this week he began his charm offensive by sending Donald Jr. to Greenland. And to be fair to Donald Jr., that is a man who is yet to see a mountain of snow he couldn't snort. So sending him to the Arctic feels at best dangerous. His logic behind claiming the Panama Canal is that it was originally for the American military. He said the Panama Canal was built for our military. It's being operated by China. We gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. His logic seems to be that the Panama Canal was originally American. And what I would say is that if you are a white American, you don't want to start pulling at the thread of giving things back to the people who originally owned them. Because I imagine there's quite a few indigenous tribes in America that might have something to say along similar lines. There's huge strategic importance to Greenland as a country. So it's currently technically ruled by Denmark, but it's got its own kind of sovereignty at the core of its legal system. But it has a huge sort of diplomatic significance. And one of the key elements to it is that it's going to have some shipping routes opening up within it. Now, the reason those shipping routes are opening up is because of, you guessed it, global warming. So we're going to deal with the effects of global warming by doing more things to increase global warming. We are, as a species, about to attempt to shit through diarrhea.
Well, Donald Trump Jr. took some "Make Greenland Great Again" hats to Greenland. I think, like, looking at the way the Trump regime works, "Make Greenland Green Again" might be more achievable. I think that seems to be the way they're going. I mean, it's good. Do you not think it's good, though, Josh? Because we tend to be quite critical of Donald Trump on this podcast, but let's give him some credit. You know, he's been elected by the people of America, and he's really focusing on the issues that matter to ordinary working-class Americans. Ownership of large, uninhabitable land masses, antagonizing long-term rival Denmark, finishing off the War of 1812 once and for all, and threatening to call bits of water by a different name. At last, Josh, you have a leader who is listening to people's everyday concerns. The
kitchen table issues.
The forgotten Rust Belt, blue-collar, ordinary Americans for too long have suffered under leaders who ignore their basic everyday needs. Not anymore. Give Trump time. He will also claim 3 million square miles of the Australian outback, the bottom kilometre of the Marianas Trench, which of course he will rename as the Trench of America, the Ongo bit of Mongolia. He'll threaten war against Tahiti because it's basically Hawaii, isn't it? All of this will put food in the faces of ordinary, hardworking Americans. So no criticism from me.
So folksy and heartland appealing is this agenda. If it rhymed, you would think it was a John Mellencamp song. All this stuff is so bananas to me because he continues to propose buying Greenland, which Denmark insists is not for sale, which is not a surprise, right? Most countries are pretty satisfied with the size they're currently at. A couple of the more assertive nations, to put it almost too gently, are trying to bulk up a little bit. And I know it's New Year's resolution season, but no countries are trying to slim down right now. That's why even on January 2nd, if you go to your gym or went to your gym, you are unlikely to see the nation of Denmark on the treadmill next to you trying to shed the dead weight of Greenland. You can't just grab a sovereign country and put it in a headlock until it gives you what you want. Or you can. There's a name for it. It's war. Trump's idle musings would be wars on 3 different continents, not counting the proxy wars we already have going on. It's like he's trying to get enough punches on his frequent military conflict card that he gets to bomb Antarctica for free.
I mean, I've seen a number of experts saying it's unlikely that Trump will use military force. And I think this, to me, is one of the rays of hope, Josh, that Trump may be an absolutely incurable bellend, but he is also at heart fucking lazy. And I think
so lazy.
Yes. So he likes sort of maybe talking war and threatening war, but war is, well, history shows, complicated and difficult, and it will cut into his time for complaining about all the lefties who are running America whilst he's running America. So I think that's our one hope, that he is just too lazy to actually start a war. Interestingly, bellend etymologically comes from the Latin word bellendum, meaning to be fought. That's a fact. Pure fact.
Dude, what are you doing? You've cried wolf too much on this podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why you're looking at us as if we're supposed to go, oh, great fact, Andy. I'll tell you how we're both looking at you. We're looking at you like more horseshit. more horse shit being sprayed from the human equivalent of a horse's ass.
Right, potato, I guess.
I would say that in regards to Panama, the US sort of wants to be quite careful in terms of its interventions. In December 1989, the 12,000 US military personnel actually engaged in a military operation to overthrow the Panamanian military dictator Manuel Noriega. That military operation, by the way, was called Operation Just Cause, which, I mean, in terms of branding, is one step away from me starting a company called We Pay Our Taxes PLC. But the interesting thing about US interventions in Panama is that Manuel Noriega had previously been supported both financially and just in terms of support by the American government. And the more you read about American foreign policy from sort of 1979 through the whole of the 1980s, the more you realize in terms of like Panama, in terms of Iran, in terms of Afghanistan, that US foreign policy in that period of time was like me eating a Chinese meal at 11:30 p.m. and then the next morning screaming, what Satan has crawled into my chest, and with God as my witness, I will have revenge in this life or the next, whilst downing Gaviscon by the pint.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Just Cause campaign. I think the new range of measures against Panama will be known as Operation Just Because. Basically, all it is. It's just there, isn't it? It's there.
We'll turn on any government we've supported as our government. Well, it doesn't matter. It's like nothing lasts forever. Even cold November rain. Like our attitude towards administrations that we've supported is like to go to war with them. And be like, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
I think were George Washington's words in 1776, but the Panama issue. I mean, there is another solution to this. When you think of what Trump set out to do and failed to do in his first term, just build a new canal on the route of Trump's border wall with Mexico. So don't bother finishing off the wall that isn't built. Just build a canal. 2 birds, 1 stone, 1,951 miles long across the entire... And that would be the world's longest canal, Josh. It would beat the 1,104-mile-long Grand Canal in China. And the US-China rivalry, to me, that needs some competitive canal building. That will really take it to the next level. We're looking at the kind of new Cold War, and competitive canal building can be the moon landings of the 21st century. That 1,104-mile-long Grand Canal... This is a fact you really need to take on board in America. That equals 1,776 kilometers. 1776. That is a clear and unequivocal improvisation of the United States. They are trolling you through the length of their ancient canals. It did take 2,000 years to build, apparently, which might be a little too long for the Trumpian attention span, which in fact about 700 million times too long. I think 90 seconds is his record for focusing on a single thing. So
2,000 years. He'll only have another decade or two of life after that. God, he's going to live forever, and it's going to make us all miserable until we die.